Hi everyone. We are talking about academic honesty today. And when the topic is academic honesty, of course, we are going to talk about plagiarism. We will first define what it is, then we will talk about how to avoid it. Let's start with the definition. The word plagiarism has its origin in Latin, and in Latin it means to kidnap. If you check the word in a regular dictionary, for example, Merriam-Webster defines it this way: the act of using another person's words or ideas without giving credit to that person. Here, the key phrase is giving credit. There is nothing wrong in using other people's ideas or their words if you do it properly, if you give credit to that person, to that source. If you're honestly giving your reader the information that you got this idea, you got these words from that particular source, there is nothing wrong with that. So we are talking about plagiarism. Plagiarism happens when you do not acknowledge the fact that these are not your words or ideas, when you do not give credit to your source. Every university has the definition of plagiarism on their websites. When you check Metro NCC Academic Code of Ethics, it is how they define it. As you see, it is very similar to the dictionary definition, using ideas or words of other people without crediting the source as if they are their own. And also our campus lists the following actions as plagiarism: using printed or internet sources without reference to the source, copying sections from different sources without quotations or reference, using a source by revising the words without reference, and using ideas of other people without acknowledging the original source of the idea. This is how it is basically defined on our university's academic code of ethics. Let's now look at it more closely, try to better understand what plagiarism is. People usually categorize plagiarism in two. The first category is intentional, the other one is unintentional. Here, first of all, you need to understand that it's not because intentional is worse than unintentional, or one is plagiarism while the other is not. In both cases, it is plagiarism. Yes, intentional plagiarism is much more serious. An unintentional one is most probably done by mistake, but no one can read your mind. You can never be sure it will be understood as unintentional. You need to understand this. Whether it is intentional or unintentional, it is still plagiarism. The only thing is, I can say, intentional plagiarism cases are much more serious because they are done for sure on purpose. Here is the first one under intentional plagiarism. If you purchase a pre-written paper, if you pay for a paper, that is, of course, plagiarism. If you let somebody else write your paper, that is, of course, no question, it is plagiarism. If you submit somebody else's unpublished work, somebody else's work, with or without permission, it is plagiarism. If you submit work done jointly by a group, it will be plagiarism. It is still like in the previous semester you've done it with a group, and this semester you submit it as if it is just something you wrote by yourself. There is no question, I guess. You're lying. Whenever you are lying, whenever you're not honest, you can understand that. It is going to be plagiarism, an intentional one, of course. This one is interesting. If you submit work done by you, but for another class or another purpose, without documenting that it was previously used. This is in fact like this. Imagine you wrote a paper, it is really good, and you say, oh, great, I can use this paper in some other classes as well. You can just think like, this is my paper. I'm not stealing from anybody. Yes, maybe you're not stealing from anybody. It is your work, but still you're not honest. So plagiarism is not all about stealing. It is also about honesty. To understand whether it is a problem or not, you need to ask yourself this question: is it honest or not? So using your own work without acknowledging, using your own work you produce for another purpose without acknowledging that, without a permission, it will be plagiarism because you're not honest. And finally, creating phony citations, that will be plagiarism. You cannot create phony citations. You need to be honest with your source of information, where you got it from. You cannot make up fake citations. That will be intentional plagiarism and it will be wrong. And the second category is unintentional plagiarism. You will see here that those are similar, simply like, most probably will be just done by mistake. But as I said, no, we cannot read your mind. We cannot know whether it is intentional or not. You need to know this is still plagiarism and you need to learn the rule very well. If you fail to cite a source, that is not common knowledge. This is a usual case, a very common mistake. Students usually do not know the difference between common knowledge, not common knowledge. They usually commit plagiarism due to this reason. We will talk about this in this video later. And failure to quote or block quote. You need to know how to quote properly. You need to learn the rule and you need to follow the rule. You just need to make sure you're quoting properly. You need to then also, of course, document it. You need to cite it. You need to show where you got it from. Similar to quotes with a paraphrase and summary. Again, you need to learn the rule. You need to know the difference between a paraphrase and summary. You need to do it properly. And in each case, again, you need to give the correct citation information. You need to document it. And finally, the last one is about failure to be loyal to a source. Remember, with the intentional one, at this point we got phony citations, and now we got failure to be loyal to a source. This might happen, as you can understand. It might be intentional or unintentional. It is very easy, especially if you're using too many sources. You can simply lose your track. You may just forget, you may lose where you got that information from. Then, if you come up with some inaccurate information about the source, then it will be plagiarism again. That is something you need to be careful about. All right, if we move on, now we can talk about how to avoid plagiarism. It is very simple, in fact, if you follow the rules. The first thing is you need to understand the difference between quoting, summarizing, and paraphrasing. Yes, I'm sorry, you have to. You need to know what a quote means, what a summary means, what a paraphrase means, and how you can do it properly. You need to understand the citation style required and use it consistently. Consistent, proper, accurate use of the citation style will help you to avoid plagiarism. And you need to keep good track of every source you look at, whatever it takes. If you find that information, write down where you found it. Don't trust technology. Don't trust yourself that much. You might easily lose track of your sources. Find a way. Keep track of your sources. If you use that old strategy, keep them in note cards. If you use technology, code them, color code them, hyperlink them at the end, but do something so that you will know where you got that information from. You will know That is not your idea. These are not your words. Keep good track of your sources. And here is the golden rule. Whenever you feel doubt, you need to just cite it. You'd better cite it. If you have the slightest doubt in your mind whether you have to cite it or not, cite it. It will be fine. Or check it with your instructor. To avoid plagiarism, it's also a good idea to know this. What are you telling your reader in each case? For example, if you give the citation information and if you are using quote marks, what does it tell your reader? It says that this is somebody else's idea in that person's exact words. This is what quote marks tell your reader with a citation. If you give the citation information and there is no quote marks, you're telling your reader, look, these are not my ideas. These are somebody else's ideas, but I put them in my own words. And here is my source. I got it from this source. So you're making a paraphrase or summary. If there is no citation, if you're giving no quote marks, there is no quotes, there are no quote marks. Here is what you're telling your reader. This passage is all my idea, and I wrote everything in my own words. So know the difference to avoid plagiarism. When you are researching and note-taking, mark everything that is someone else's work. Code them, color code them. All the relevant information, note it down. The writer, the title, year of publication, publisher, page number, or just simply add the link. Just add the link. Make sure you leave a trace. You will remember you got this idea from somewhere else and you know where you got it from. And here are some more tips to avoid plagiarism. Never copy more than 3-4 words in a row from a source without using quote marks. It is very possible when you are making a paraphrase, when you are making a summary, it is very possible you might still feel the need to make quotes. Quote them, okay? But never ever use somebody else's words without quote marks. If it is more than 3-4 words, make sure you're using quote marks. Never use special words or phrases without properly quoting and citing them. It might be something special. It might be something that particular source, writer came up with. Even if it is 1 word, 2 words, doesn't matter. Just give the citation information, quote that. You should always provide references for direct quotations, summaries, and paraphrases, statistics, charts, graphs, diagrams, controversial interpretations, results of others' research. You need to cite them. And what you don't need to cite is common knowledge and your idea, your own arguments and original ideas. You will know what is your own argument, what is your original idea. But when it is about common knowledge, as I said, it is usually a problem. Common knowledge is something like this. Look at this. Stable, well-documented, non-controversial facts about the world. For example, Ankara is the capital of Turkey, is common knowledge. An easy rule is if you could find it in a high school textbook, then it is probably common knowledge. Or this is how you can check it. If you find the same information undocumented in at least 5 credible sources, then it is common knowledge. This is how Purdue University defines common knowledge. So you don't need to provide references for common knowledge or facts. But please note this. This does not mean you can copy from texts, word for word. You need to still put it in your own words, even if it is common knowledge. And here is the golden rule. If you feel the slightest doubt,
you need to cite.